British Columbia Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh.
Good afternoon and welcome back to BCIT News. I'm Riley Cunningham, and here are your final news headlines of the day. Filipino BC has announced that the 2026 Lapu-Lapu Day Festival in Vancouver will be going ahead. This comes nearly a year after the devastating attack that killed 11 people and injured dozens more. The organization says they're focusing on remembrance and healing, and they recognize the community's shared grief. At least one memorial gathering will be included to honor the victims of the attack. The City of Vancouver, the province, and first responders are all said to be working with Filipino BC to ensure appropriate safety measures are in place. The man accused of committing the violent attack, Adam Kaiji Low, is currently being held without bail at the Forensic Psychiatric Hospital in Port Coquitlam. He was deemed fit to stand trial in September. Chair of Filipino BC, RJ Aquino, said in a news release that while the festival is a cultural celebration, it will also be about unity, care, and reflection. The event will take place the weekend of April 17th to 19th, and full event details will be released later. The organization stays committed to staying connected to community members to allow for meaningful engagement on the event. A 35-year-old man has been arrested in connection with 3 armed robberies in Burnaby. Police say the man was taken into custody on December 10th after a search warrant was executed by Mounties and Vancouver Police emergency teams at a home in Vancouver. The first robbery took place on October 27th, where a Burnaby business reported being robbed by someone wielding a weapon. 2 other robberies were reported mid-November at other businesses in South Burnaby. The man has since been released from custody, and the investigation is ongoing. Delta police are looking into an extortion-related shooting that happened earlier this morning. The shooting happened at a home near 84th Avenue and Brook Road. Police say they responded to the residents shortly after 5 a.m., and that while people were at home at the time of the shooting, thankfully nobody was injured. Major crime investigators have taken over the file due to the supposed ties to a current extortion investigation. A provincial task force was formed last year in order to address the rise in extortion-related violence in the Lower Mainland. Just over 1 month has passed since the latest Metro Town bear spray incident. Reporter Nate Elms looks into if 2026 will be different for the city.
Nearly 3 years after Vancouver City Council passed a bylaw regulating the sale of bear spray in the municipality, Burnaby still has not implemented any such regulations. A report by the Burnaby RCMP outlined over 400 bear spray incidents that occurred between 2019 and 2023, with many involving youth perpetrators and victims. The Burnaby RCMP requested better bylaw regulations in November 2024, and according to the City of Burnaby's records, staff were directed to investigate the feasibility and implementation of a bylaw just 1 month later. However, their expected completion date was December 2025, and within that time, there were 7 bear spray incidents in Metrotown Mall. Nate Elms, BCIT News.
It is illegal in Canada to carry any weapon on your person, even for self-defense. Former Canadian ambassador to Venezuela, Ben Rosewell, says Ottawa is parroting Washington's anti-democratic line by allowing the narrative of new elections in Venezuela. A statement was issued on Tuesday by Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand that said U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio thinks Venezuelans should have a chance to elect their own leader. In a G7 foreign ministers' call on Tuesday, Rubio expressed the importance of democracy in Venezuela and the release of political prisoners. U.S. President Trump does not echo the same sentiment, saying they captured Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro for economic gain. Rosewell explained that it isn't helpful to raise the idea of fresh elections, especially with the state of American politics. Marco Rubio also said he is planning on holding a meeting with the leaders of Greenland and Denmark after mixed signals from the Trump administration on whether the U.S. would use military force to acquire Greenland, with the White House saying U.S. military is always an option. Several European nations have expressed their support for Greenland and have asserted that it is a territory of Denmark. The U.S. has yet to back off, and White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt outlined today at a press briefing the administration's reasons for setting its sights on Greenland.
More control over the Arctic region and ensuring that China and Russia and our adversaries cannot continue their aggression in this very important and strategic region. And there would be many other benefits as well that, again, the president and his national security team are currently talking about.
Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen warned the Trump administration earlier this week that an invasion of Greenland would be a major threat to NATO. Caroline Leavitt spoke to the media about Venezuelan oil today as well and said the U.S. will indeed control 30 to 50 million barrels. She added that the U.S. will also oversee where the money from the sale of those barrels will go. The Trump administration says this agreement was part of a deal struck with the interim Venezuelan government, currently led by Delcy Rodriguez, Maduro's second-in-command. Leavitt also mentioned that the U.S. will ease up on sanctions to allow for the sale of oil.
All proceeds from the sale of Venezuelan crude oil and products will first settle in U.S.-controlled accounts at globally recognized banks to guarantee the legitimacy and integrity of the ultimate distribution of proceeds, and those funds will be dispersed for the benefit of the American people and the Venezuelan people at the discretion of the United States government.
There is no word on what Venezuela is getting out of this supposed deal with the United States, and Rodriguez has yet to comment. The latest in federal immigration enforcement escalation rocked the city of Minneapolis today. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey is demanding ICE leave the city following a chaotic incident today that left one woman dead. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem described the incident as an act of domestic terrorism carried out against ICE, claiming the woman who was shot and killed by officers was attempting to run them over. Frey accused the federal officers of sowing chaos in the streets and that the response to the woman's actions was reckless and unnecessary. Federal officials argued they were acting in self-defense, firing 2 shots towards the driver of a car as she sped away. Nick Reiner's arraignment has been delayed after his lawyer, high-profile attorney Alan Jackson, has asked to leave Reiner's defense team. Reiner is accused of killing his parents, prolific filmmaker and actor Rob Reiner, and his wife of 36 years, Michelle Singer Reiner, over 3 weeks ago. The two were found dead in their Los Angeles home. Jackson had previously defended Hollywood superstars like Harvey Weinstein and Kevin Spacey, but did not mention why he wanted to leave this case. Judge Teresa McGonigal has delayed the arraignment until February 23rd, and Jackson recommended a public defender be assigned to the case in the interim. Taking a look at sports now. The BC Lions have released defensive back Robert Carter Jr. today to allow him to pursue opportunities in the NFL. The 2025 season was his first in the CFL, and he appeared in 18 regular season games, recording 5 interceptions and 1 forced fumble, and scoring a defensive touchdown for the Lions. General Manager Ryan Rigmaiden said in a statement that Robert earned every bit of the opportunity, mentioning that as a rookie, he performed at a very high level and made outstanding plays. Rigmaiden says that while it hurts to lose a player of his caliber, they're excited he'll get the opportunity to live out his dream of playing in the NFL. Carter has reportedly signed a deal with the NFL's Indianapolis Colts. The Vancouver Canucks managed their 4th straight loss last night in Buffalo against the Sabres. With no goals in the first 2 periods, they managed 3 in the third, but it wasn't enough to hold off the Sabres, who won 5-3. Yesterday's game was the first in a 6-game road trip for Vancouver, who head to Detroit to play the Red Wings on Thursday. The Winnipeg Jets have postponed a skiing-related promotion that was set to take place this week due to the deadly fire at a ski resort bar in Switzerland, where 40 people were killed and over 100 were injured. The promotion was originally set for this Friday's home game, an après ski night that saw free ski goggles for the first 5,000 fans in attendance. The event is being pushed back to March 10th in recognition of those killed and injured in the bar fire that was believed to be started by sparklers that came too close to the bar's ceiling. In a statement, the club said they join the world in honoring those lost and send their condolences to everyone affected. The Baltimore Ravens are on the hunt for a new head coach after firing John Harbaugh, who has been with the team for 18 years. ESPN NFL analyst says the job will be a top choice for candidates.
There was other issues on the roster, inability to get pressure, some issues on the back end as well. Tackling, we saw that in the final game. They don't have a wide receiver one, some problems on the offensive line. It's still a very good team. They still have Lamar Jackson, who, as we saw in the final game, is still one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So we'll see. I think a lot depends on whether or not they keep Todd Monken, their offensive coordinator, which, frankly, I would do. But this is a very, very desirable job.
Coco Gauff came back swinging today, winning once in singles and in mixed doubles, advancing the Americans to the semifinals of the United Cup in Sydney this coming Saturday. Gauff lost a singles match earlier this week and faced some social media drama when she commented on the lack of support from American tennis fans. She clarified her thoughts later in a press conference.
I feel like we're definitely in the tennis department the worst when it comes to that. So I've always said I wish our country and other places would show up throughout the world as we see like maybe smaller countries support. But I also think it's just because of our country is good in so many sports, so like it's just hard. But yeah, I definitely think there are Americans that come out more in Melbourne than necessarily here, but I would like to see some more Americans if we make it to Sydney than there were last year.
The Americans will travel to Sydney to face the winner of the Poland-Australia quarterfinals match this weekend. We'll end off with your final weather forecast today. It's currently 3 degrees with wind, making it feel around 0. The rain, snow, sleet mix is set to stop in the next few hours with a low of 3 degrees overnight. Those were your final news headlines of the day. My name is Riley Cunningham, and this is BCIT News. We will see you tomorrow.
When I tell people that I studied journalism, they immediately say, oh, you want to be a reporter. But I think, in my case personally, I really want to go into magazines, PR, social media. And I think here at school we learn a lot of skills that allow you to go into that world, because you learn how to write for social media, social content, for websites,